So today you are going to solve quadratic equations using the third method, quadratic formula. So we have factoring, we have complete the square, and we also have this quadratic formula. So this is something you'll have to remember. Negative b over 2a, axis symmetry, and we'll have plus and minus square root of the discriminant. Right? And we can solve any of these by factoring, complete the square, or also this method. This would be a third and final method for solving quadratic equations. And the big idea I want you guys to take away is that if you use different methods to solve the same problem, you should have the same answer. It's really important to understand that you're solving one problem 3 ways, but the problem still has one answer regardless. So for here, you guys probably factored it, right? And you did this. What two numbers multiply to 9? Right? And add to 0. Or maybe you saw the shortcut. You got, let's see, 3 and 3. And then plus and minus, right? So 3 times 3 is 9, and positive times negative is the minus sign. And then we got 2 answers. Subtract 3 on both sides. Add 3 on both sides. So negative 3 comma 3. So from that, I know, basically I know this. I know I have 2 roots, 2 solutions. I know the discriminant is positive because there are 2 solutions, so it works the other way. If you know your answer, you have 2 answers, you know the discriminant is positive. So I know this much. I don't know where the vertex is though. I do know it's opening upwards. So I know this much. Okay, A is positive, positive 1, so I know it's going upwards. But I do not know where the vertex is. Right. So let's do the same problem, but complete the square. N squared minus 9 equals 0. What is half of 0? Because b is 0, right? There's no b value here. What is half of 0? 0. 0 squared is 0. So there's nothing to complete here. There is no square. So all you have to do is start solving. Add 9 to both sides. Equals 9. Square root both sides. What do you get as an answer? N equals 3. And also negative 3. So of course, this is the big picture, you have to get the same answer. Regardless if you use 2 different methods, the answer must be identical. Must be identical. Side note, we could write this in vertex form right here and write it as n minus 0 squared minus 9, and that let us know the vertex is at 0 comma negative 9. So that's where the vertex is. Lastly, today, after you're going to do this, you're going to do the factoring. That's going to be part A. You're going to do completing the square. That's part B. And then lastly, you're going to do part C, quadratic formula. So you'll have x equals, and I suggest you always use what I call a skeleton. It means you put all these empty parentheses where all the numbers will go. This will help you avoid a lot of mistakes with negatives and other problems that might show up. So what is A, what is B, and what is C? A equals 1. B equals 0. It's important to know, right? Not 9 or negative 9. C is equal to negative 9. So we can plug them all in. That's b squared plus or minus square root, negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So we have 0. There's no negative 0. Just drop the negative. Plus or minus. This is your homework last night. What does this equal? What does the discriminant equal? Positive 36, right? So 0. And then you have negative 4 times negative 9, which is positive 36. 0 plus 36 is 36. All over 2. So we get square root of 36 positive. And then we get the negative. So we get 3 and negative 3. So once again, regardless of what method you use, you have to have, it's one problem. We solved one problem 3 ways, so of course it has to have the same method, same answer, regardless of what method you choose. All right. We do one more. That's a little more involved because of bigger numbers. This had a b equal to 0. So that's a little simpler. So let's look at what happened. Get this out of the way. There we go. Let's solve this by factoring. Okay, so part A is factoring. First step, GCF. What two numbers multiply to negative 2 and add to negative 1? Multiply to negative 2 and add to negative 2. Negative 2, positive 1. Negative 2 times 1 is negative 2. Negative 2 plus 1 is negative 1. Okay, we can solve it. 5p. 5 times p minus 2 equals 0 now, and p plus 1 equals 0. So we can divide both sides by 5 first to drop the 5. 0 divided by 5, just get 0. And then add 2 to both sides. And here, we can just subtract 1 on both sides. So this lets me know that if I use any other method, I have to get these 2 answers. Must get those 2 answers. So let's do it both completing the square and quadratic formula and prove that it's the same thing. Now the same step, the first step is the same for factoring and for completing the square. We'll have, take out the GCF. But now let's complete the square. So, half of negative 1 is negative 1/2. Square it and you get 1/4. So to complete the square, we need 1/4. How far is it from 1/4 to negative 2? So what is negative 2 minus 1/4? Yeah, it's negative 2 and 1/4. Which is negative 9/4. So already you can see maybe you have some bias on what method is better, which one you like more, just based upon having these fractions. But regardless, you should get the same answer. So we have 5. That factors to p minus half. Bring that down. So then don't forget to distribute that 5 back. So we're going to distribute that back. So we have 5 times p minus 1/2 multiplied by 5, so I'll have 45 over 4. And this equals 0. All these equals 0. Alright, let's solve. Move the 45 over 4 to the other side, add it to both sides. That's equal 45 over 4. Divide both sides by 5, which is the same as multiplying by 1/5 on both sides. That makes it easier for the fractions. So p minus 1/2 is now equal to 45 over 4 times 1/5. 5 goes into here 9 times, so we get 9 over 4 again. Square root both sides. P minus 1/2 equals 3 over 2. Square root of 9, square root of 4, 3 and 2. And don't forget you have 2 of them. So you have P minus 1/2 equals 3 over 2. And then P minus 1/2 equals negative 3 over 2. Right. Add a half to both sides, you get 4 over 2, which equals 2. Add a half to both sides, you get negative 2 over 2, which is negative 1. So of course, we do end up with the same answer. Lastly, I can do a quadratic formula with 5, negative 5, and negative 10. So negative parenthesis plus or minus b squared minus 4ac all over 3. And let me write it over here. A, B, and C. A was 5, B was 5, C was negative 10. Double check that. B is negative 5. Okay. Negative 5, negative 5, 5, negative 10, and 5. Plug everything in the right place. 5 plus or minus square root 25 plus, let's see here, negative 4 times 5, negative 20, negative 20 times negative 10. Like this. Okay. So we have 5 plus or minus square root of 225 over 10. Square root of 225 is 15. So we got 5 plus 15. And we have 5 minus 15 all over 10. So that's 20 over 10, which equals 2. And negative 10 over 10, which is negative 1. And once again, this answer, negative 2 and 1, matches what we got here and here. So the big picture is that you need to understand you get the same answer regardless of what method you use. Okay. That's the big idea here. Don't come here on Monday saying, well, I did them all, I wrote something, and we look all the way across and you have different answers for the same exact question, but because of a different method you got a mistake and now you have different numbers. So you're not finished until you get all of them to match all the way across. Don't stop and say, well, that's weird, I got something different with this method. The first two methods I got the same answer, the third one I didn't. Oh well, you know, I guess it's different. No, it's one question you're answering, so you should have the same exact answer for each one. Alright. So on the homework, Watch up here. Ready? So the first one, we needed to factor. What two numbers multiplied to 5 and added to 6? We got 5 and 1. 5 times 1 is 5, and 5 plus 1 is 6. So we have x plus 5 equal to 0, and x plus 1 equal to 0. So we have our two answers, our two x-intercepts. So I know the answers for 1b and 1c, if I did this correct, should be the same. Alright, so let's complete the square on 1b. I guess I don't need that. There's no GCF. X squared plus 6x. Alright, complete that square. Half of 6 is 3. Squared is 9. Remember, these have to be the same. So I have 5 here and 9 here. So I'm going to put in a minus 4 to make them equal. Factor these three. Okay. So so far between the factoring and the completing the square, I now know the roots and I know the vertex. So if I had to graph this, let's see here, it would be at -3, comma -4. And we have -1, -5. I know from here the y-intercept is 5 at c value. So over here the y-intercept is going to be 5. So the process for sketching a graph is sped up considerably. The more methods we learn, the more things we know to look for. Okay. Let's solve this now. Verify we get the same answers. Add 4 to both sides. Divide both sides. Square root both sides. Okay, but remember we get two answers. We get equals 2, but we also get x plus 3 equals -2. So I'll subtract 3 on both sides. I get x equals 2 minus 3 is -1. And subtract 3 on both sides here, we get -2 minus 3 is -5. So yes, indeed, we get matching answers. And then lastly, just prove one more time that you get the same answer. Use the quadratic formula. Always recommend using a skeleton to start off with. So that's just empty parentheses for all the numbers you're plugging in. So negative parentheses plus or minus square root. Just like so. Okay. Okay. All right, so
up here, I know A is equal to 1, B is equal to positive 6, C is equal to positive 5. So negative 6 plus or minus the square root of 6 squared minus 4 times 1 times 5 all over 2 times 1. Plug everything in correctly. Negative 6 plus or minus 36 minus, let's see, negative 4 times 1 is negative 4 times 5 is negative 20. So we have 36 minus 20 is 16. And then finally break it up. We have negative 6 plus 4 over 2. The square root of 16 is 4. And negative 6 minus 4 is 2. Negative 6 plus 4 is negative 2. Negative 2 divided by 2 is negative 1. Negative 6 minus 4 is negative 10. Negative 10 divided by 2 is negative 5. Okay. So we have, once again, the same answers for all of them. Okay. So that's what you need to have happen on your work as well. All the way across on 2A, 2B, 2C, same answer. On the back, there's 3 more. Alright. Yeah, there's a typo on the back, thank you. On 3B, there's a little typo there. Just take off that. It's just the same question. Alright.